Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. And today, well, it's a little bit off topic, a little bit of just kind of down to earth. Let's talk. I've done a lot of watch reviews kind of back to back here these last few weeks, so I thought maybe take just a little breather from that. I've got some other watch reviews coming up. I just got this watch in the interim. This is a Casio. Simple. It's got a step tracker, Bluetooth connection, so it'll set itself to the right time. Other than that, it's small, kind of lightweight, very affordable, and has some neat functions. So I'll have a full review on this coming up soon. And then also, this is a new watch I got. This is not a Casio, but listen to this. This is what it does.
The time is 5:13 p.m.
It talks to me, and it also sets itself automatically to the right time using the atomic time broadcasts, not Bluetooth, and very affordable. So I'll do a full review on this one. Don't expect it to be as great as a G-Shock, but for what it is, it's great. So I'll talk about both of those watches more in depth real soon. Also, address some rumors that are out there, and these are kind of more than rumors. These are pretty solid by now. A lot of people are interested in the MIP display, memory in pixel display on Casio watches. I mean, this has been available, I guess, with other brands, but I don't really pay attention to other brands very much. That may be a weakness of this channel, but that's just the truth. I except this one, I paid attention to that one. But anyway, so MIP. So I've got this fitness watch that I got a couple Christmases ago, and so the main thing on this is the entire display is like a dot matrix display. So it's a pretty good resolution, and it means that every single screen can be completely different from the others as you blast through the modes. And also with an MIP display, even though this is a negative LCD, and typically I kind of steer clear of negative LCDs, I don't think they're quite as easy to read as the normal positive LCDs. But a lot of people say, well, the exception to that general problem is the MIP display. They usually have a pretty good legibility, even with the negative version. But a lot of people have said, I don't want the fitness features on this. I don't want it to track my steps. I don't want the heart monitor or the oxygen level monitor. I don't want any of that stuff. I just want a really good, typical G-Shock Square with the MIP display. Can they do that? And I thought, I don't know. I don't know if they're in any hurry to do that, but it is coming. And it started out as rumors. Now there's some pictures online, leaked pictures. I don't think they're fake, like AI pictures, but I think they're legitimate pictures of some prototypes or maybe some finished products that are already out there. Somebody took some pictures and put them on the internet. So, and I don't know exactly when. Everyone's hoping, like they will officially release these tomorrow, but not yet. The latest I'm seeing that seems like credible rumors on this is the first part of the year 2026. So that's still a few months away as I'm recording this. I'm definitely interested. The prices are going to be a little bit high. Prices are going up on everything. The entire Casio lineup got a little boost in price by somewhere between, maybe 10% or so across the board. So, with the economic situation in the world and tariffs and all that stuff, I don't know exactly how that plays out, other than when I go to the places I normally look for deals. Some of those deals aren't quite as readily available as they used to be, and the typical retail suggested price has gone up. But anyway, so imagine a watch kind of like this. So this is a G-Shock Square full metal case. I got this for a pretty good bargain now that I look back. It's been a few years ago, but you could get this for about $500, a little bit more than $500. But if you shop around carefully, you can get this. And this one has the positive LCD. It's got tough solar, atomic timekeeping with Multiband 6, and a Bluetooth connection for updating the time and other functions. It's got a full metal case, a screw down back, all this. You can get this for $500, maybe less. And then they have a few different color variations on this, but there are also variations of this watch that go quite a bit more expensive, all the way up to the MRG version, or I call it the Mr. G version, with special titanium and all that stuff. And you're looking at $3,500, $4,000, for some of those limited edition with special materials versions of this watch. I'm not going to go that high. I'm just, we can argue about Is it really worth it? For me, no. I'm not going to spend $3,000 on a G-Shock. I don't even like to spend more than $200 if I could help it. But what I'm hearing is that they're going to have an MIP version of this watch. So it's going to have a little bit more customizable display, and it'll be, super easy to read, whether it's a positive or negative display. It'll be available in some different finishes, like a gold tone, or maybe some, I don't know, darker colors, darker metal finishes, and even kind of a silver tone like this. And what I can tell right now, it looks like the prices are going to be like maybe $700 per watch, maybe a little bit more for the full metal versions. But they will have kind of a resin version, which will be more reminiscent of like something like this or this. So this is a negative display, this is a positive display. So they might have those for closer to $250. I'm hoping maybe a little bit less. And as soon as they're available and I can get them, and if they don't sell out, immediately, I think I'll opt for the resin version with the MIP display when that's available. So that's what I'm looking forward to, even though that might not be available before Christmas this year. So we'll just see how that plays out. So I wanted to acknowledge those rumors, and those are the kind of watches that are on my radar right now. I know I haven't been purchasing Casio watches with quite the frequency that I used to. And part of that is they've kind of gone with the very inexpensive models like this, emphasis on very inexpensive, or the really expensive ones that are like $700 and more. And so that middle ground that I like the most is being neglected a little bit in today's market and today's economy. And so, but as you can see, I still have my eyes out there looking for, what am I going to get next? And I've got some ideas and some plans. And of course, as soon as I act on those plans, I will make videos, and they'll be right here on the Good Timekeeping Show. All right, switching gears, I just wanted to kind of just chat. Okay, so this is the off-topic part of the video. I've mentioned this before in other videos, and maybe you've seen those other videos, and maybe it stuck with you, or maybe you forgot. My regular 5-day-a-week job that I do outside of the house down in Salt Lake City is I work for a TV station as a TV news photographer, one of the major TV stations in Salt Lake City. And and I say TV news photographer, yes, it's video. It's what people call it videography. Some people would say I'm a videographer. We don't really use that term in the industry. Maybe that goes back to the days when they were really using motion picture film cameras, like 16 millimeter films. So, and they'd process the film, and then have film at 11, and I'm talking, 50 years ago, maybe more. So we still use those terms when we talk about photographers. And so I tend to prefer the term photographer because it's an industry term anyway, and videography, that almost sounds like a made up word to me. So, but I went to school way back in the 1900s. So photographer, I'm a TV news photographer and editor. And sometimes that means I'm out with a reporter, and we're recording things, interviews or whatever we're doing out in the field. And then sometimes I'm sitting in the car with a laptop computer editing this stuff on a very tight timeline so we can get that into the station in time to do our live report at 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever time the newscast is on. So that's what I do. And it's a rewarding job. It can be a difficult job. It can be a stressful job, especially when, I feel like I don't have enough time to edit this particular news story, and I can't change when the newscast is going to happen. It's like, oh man, if I only had an extra half hour, I could really do a great edit on this, but I'll just do what's good. And, I wonder if I should do a series of videos, maybe for those of you that are interested in maybe becoming a TV news photographer, or you're just curious about how it all works. I could tell you some things that I think it's kind of interesting. But one thing I will say that I've learned a lot of keyboard shortcuts and ways to kind of speed up the editing process. And then I worry that when I'm editing these videos for my YouTube channel, I'm in a real rush to edit when maybe I could just kind of relax and be a little more careful on the edits. So even though I'm a professional photographer and video editor, and my stuff regularly is on the normal TV that people watch to get their news and information that's essential to their lives, right? That doesn't mean that I'm going to be as careful and precise and try to, stress myself making these videos for YouTube. I really think that I need to relax a little bit making the YouTube videos. If there's something about what I've shown you, the photography element of my YouTube video, or the sound element, or the editing is just not quite perfect, and you think this was not done by a professional, I want you to know that's just me kind of relaxing and saying that, YouTube should be a little rough around the edges. This should feel more like a hobby when I'm in my YouTube mode. Even though I do try, and I think in some ways there's certain things that I just do on instinct, do pretty well. Other things, I just kind of go, you know what? Don't stress on this. Just put it out there. We're just talking amongst friends. And so I don't have to be absolutely perfect in my presentation of what I'm giving to you. So, and there's another, as I talk about, behind the scenes of my channel, I think I've said this before. I don't use music on my channel. I don't have an elaborate theme song at the beginning of each video. First of all, because to me, when I'm watching YouTube videos, I don't want to wait for the theme song and the opening title sequence. I just want to let's get right into the action. So just because I prefer that when I'm watching videos, then when I'm making them, I think, okay, I'm not going to have this elaborate long introduction I'm going to start getting to the point. The other thing with music on YouTube is, they're always monitoring music to make sure that there's not any copyright violations going on. And so that kind of slows down the process. If I post a video that has music in it, then the YouTube algorithms figures out, hey, somebody has a copyright on that music. And then they come back to me and say, hey, copyright issue. And I have to say, well, no, I paid for the right to use that music from a music distributor. And so then it takes some time to kind of work that out, and YouTube lifts whatever restrictions they might have had. I just, save the hassle. I know it makes my videos probably not seem quite as polished and professional as you might prefer, but it saves a lot of hassle if I just don't use music in these videos. So that's one of those things. I try to be careful about copyright stuff because I just don't want to get in trouble with it. It's not worth the hassle. This is not something that I want to fight about. And the topics I cover usually don't require any copyright problems anyway. I will say that one of my duties as a news photographer for this particular TV station is we have a news helicopter. So I am among many of the photographers they have there that is trained to operate the equipment in the news helicopter. I'm not a pilot. I'm not a helicopter pilot, but in the backseat of the helicopter where the camera control systems are, I run that stuff. And so from time to time, I'll go up in the chopper and do some video, whether it's live video or we're going out to get some pictures of a certain area that's going to be shown later. I do that. So let me show you just here's a little something I did the other day, just kind of like a little teaser, a little invitation to, here, look, here's the aircraft, and, come on along with me. Let's take a little ride in the helicopter. And so again, if you're ever curious about it, this is what it looks like from my perspective when I'm working in the helicopter, as we take off and we go and we do our things. But I will say, again, with the preface of I'm trying to be careful with copyrights and whatever, our station has a YouTube channel for that helicopter. So I'm not going to feature the helicopter footage on this channel because I want the station to be able to show that stuff. And if you're curious about, just some nice scenic views all around northern Utah, which is pretty amazing, we get a better variety than most news operations do when we got a news helicopter. I'm not like in a major city. I'm not like in Los Angeles where, 90% of what we do with the news helicopter is going to be right there near downtown. No, we get to go around a little bit and do some neat things. So if you want to just see some of that, that was my little teaser for the actual Chopper channel on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description of this video, so you can have at it and have some fun. I know they've been these last few weeks, they've been trying to, just for the fun of it, as we're going out doing our normal work, let's detour and take some time to go up in the mountains where the fall colors are happening, and put out some videos that people can enjoy on the Chopper channel. So, but anyway, that's one of the interesting things I get to do is ride in the Chopper and work the photographic equipment, the camera equipment in the Chopper. Okay, so where was I? Maybe if you've been taking note of my work in the news photography business here in Utah, and you maybe have seen some rather high-profile news stories coming out of Utah lately these last few weeks, and maybe you've wondered if your old friend Greg had anything to do with the news coverage on these events, and the answer is yes. There have been a few just in the last 4 or 5 weeks. There was a high-profile incident in a town called Tremonton, which is not a very big city, but it's right in the very northern part of Utah, where domestic violence dispute, things going on, and it just got out of control quickly, where a suspect fired upon 3 different police officers, and 2 of them lost their lives that night. And so that was a big deal, because for something like that to happen in such a small town, and being not rare enough, but still rare for that to happen in our market, in the places we cover in news, that was a big deal. And that was kind of a difficult story to process and think about, as we're just trying to do our job. But there's a part of my brain that still is me beneath the news photographer guy that can handle any news. So we had that, and then funerals for that, and it just kind of like everything was settling down after all of that happened. And then I'm sitting in the newsroom one day, and I hear people talking about Utah Valley University and Charlie Kirk, and they said, "Greg, head down to Orem right now." So about 45 minutes after Charlie Kirk was shot, yes, I was on the campus of UVU trying to meet up with a reporter so we could start doing some live coverage from the scene. And there were other reporters from our station and others from other stations that were there that day. So because of the circumstances, I wasn't able to get very close to the actual scene, but I was definitely there that day, and then closer to what happened the next day. And so, just the idea that, again, something that doesn't happen typically where we are, and having to process, how tough that is. And I don't want to get into Charlie Kirk, whether or not you agree with whatever he was saying. The outcome for him was just not right. And as we're processing the aftermath of that incident, the day before that happened to Charlie Kirk, the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, based in Salt Lake City, and the headquarters is like 2 blocks from where I work. The president of the church celebrated his birthday 101 years old. And so this is amazing. He's an amazing man. Russell M. Nelson is his name. He was born in 1924. He spent the first 60 years of his life leading up to a very distinguished career as a cardiologist, a heart surgeon, and a great pioneer in the 20th century when it came to techniques and technology to aid in open heart surgery and all kinds of stuff. And, you can't really walk 10 feet in Utah without knowing someone who knows someone whose life was touched by Dr. Nelson. But so after 60 years of that life and that career, he was called into church service and became one of the senior leaders of the church 40 years ago. And eventually, I don't know, about 7 or 8 years ago, became the president of the church. And so that's been going on. And so, and then he a lot of those senior leaders of the church are very senior citizens. So, you never quite know when they're going to pass away. And he just kept going and going up to age 101. And we started to wonder if he's ever going to go, but he did. So this, just as I'm recording this is Monday, Saturday night, we got the word that he had passed away. So, okay. For most people, it's like, well, he lived a great life. We should celebrate this. And then a few hours after we heard that, there was this terrible violence happened at a church, a congregation of our same church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Michigan. So again, as a news photographer, as part of the news organization covering these high-profile stories, this was just one more like, hey, we could do without this. On many levels, but dealing with this on top of everything else as part of our news coverage it's been tough. So it's kind of raw still, So again, just chatting as friends, here on YouTube. This is not a channel about religion, and I'm all for your success and happiness, no matter your religious beliefs and practices, or you don't have those. That's fine with me. We're all friends, and we talk about our common interests here. But I've told you before, much like Donny Osmond himself, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so this is all tough news, and it should be tough news for people that don't have to be in the same church as Donny Osmond for this to hit hard. So that's what yeah. I just want to level with you and again, in case you were wondering, because some of you knew about my connections to the church and to the news, and then you hear about these things and wonder, is that affecting Greg at all? Well, yeah. And we had, quite a newscast yesterday, and quite a newscast yesterday morning before I got in there. The morning crew had quite a big thing going on. So, we're feeling it and still trying to maintain our professionalism and do our job and get through some difficult days still ahead, just as human beings, and not just as news people that have to tell you about all this stuff. So anyway, that's I just kind of wanted to get that out of the way, and thanks for putting up with this, letting me kind of get this off my chest and kind of process this and help me to move forward as a human being, as I hope we all are doing. So a lot of stuff still to go. Who knows what's going to happen? But I do know this. I got some videos to make. I'm going to buy some watches, as soon as they become available, and that'll be fun. And that's and informative. And that's why I want this channel to keep going. So please stay tuned for more episodes of the Good Timekeeping Show.